All right, let's talk about something fundamental: your personality. We're going to look at it from a totally different angle today. What if it's not just a label, but actually a story? The story of how you survived. So, let's just jump right in with a pretty big question. Who are you, really? Okay, so let's get into what we're calling the question of I. You know that feeling, right? That sense of me deep down inside. It feels so solid, so constant. It's like the narrator in your own head, the one calling the shots. And how many times have you caught yourself saying this? Or something like it? Well, this is just who I am. You say it like it's a fact of nature, right? Like you're declaring something that's totally set in stone. And that belief, it runs deep. We think of our personality as this permanent, fixed part of us. You know, your shyness, your ambition, your goofy sense of humor. We treat those things like they're permanent fixtures, as if they're carved in stone and that's the end of the story. But what if that's not the end of the story? Let's totally switch gears here and talk about the brain's survival code. Because your brain has one primary job. Above all else, keep you safe. And when you look at personality through that lens, what you see isn't a flaw. It's actually an incredibly intelligent response. So this leads to a pretty wild question. What if? What if it's not a fixed identity at all? What if it's a learned strategy? I mean, think about it. What if all those things we call personality traits aren't part of some permanent blueprint, but are actually super smart tools your brain came up with to get you through life? Now that is a huge shift in perspective. It takes us from saying, this is who I am, which sounds so final, and moves us to something totally different. This is how I survived. It's not a life sentence anymore. It's the life raft that got you here. So let's put a name to this idea. We're going to call it a survival adaptation. And let me be clear, this isn't some kind of medical diagnosis. Nope. It's just a way to describe a really, really smart process. See, when we were kids, when we were most vulnerable, our brain figured out ways to deal with the world around us, especially the emotional world. And those strategies, those tools, well, over time, they became what we think of as our personality. Okay, that's the theory. But let's make this way more concrete. We're going to look at a few examples, a few portraits of protection. We'll stop seeing them as flaws and start recognizing the strategies behind them. Let's start with one we all know, the people pleaser. Now, if you look at this as a survival skill, it suddenly stops looking like a weakness or not having a backbone. Instead, you see a highly skilled diplomat, someone who grew up in an emotional conflict zone, and learned that the absolute best way to stay safe was to anticipate everyone's needs and keep the peace. Okay, how about the overthinker? Oh man, we give this one a bad rap, right? We call it anxiety. But what if it's actually the work of a brilliant strategist? A brain that's constantly running simulations, trying to predict every possible threat, because at some point, that was absolutely necessary for survival. That high alert level, it just became the default setting. Next up, the achiever. You know, that person who is always, always pushing for more success. We might call it ambition, and sure, maybe it is. But for a lot of people, it's a simple equation they learned as a kid. Success equals praise, recognition, love. So achieving wasn't just about winning, it was the only reliable way to feel worthy. And what about the joker? The person who's always ready with a witty comeback. It's easy to see that as just a fun personality trait, but it can be so much more. It can be the tactic of a master bomb diffuser, an emotional one anyway. Someone who figured out that humor was the quickest way to cut the tension in a room, to de-escalate a bad situation and make things feel safe again. Last one, the avoidant. We tend to label this one as laziness or maybe even cowardice. But it's not. It's the signature move of an escape artist. This is someone whose brain learned that when things get overwhelming, the safest thing to do is just disappear. To become small, quiet, invisible. It wasn't about giving up. It was an active, brilliant strategy for self-preservation. So where does all this leave us? What's the takeaway here? Well, it means we can stop searching for what's wrong with us. This whole new perspective is about understanding the story of how you made it. It's your story, not a stain on your character. So let's just say it plainly. These traits that we've been talking about, they are not personal flaws. And they are definitely not evidence that you're broken. Actually, it's the complete opposite. The fact that these strategies exist means that something inside of you worked perfectly. It means something fought like hell to protect you. So from now on, try to see them for what they really are. They're like echoes of an intelligence you used when you needed it most. Think of them like monuments to your own resilience. Yeah, these parts of you, these things you call your personality, they are literally the story of your survival. They're like a map that shows every challenge you faced and every brilliant creative way you found to get past it. So I want to leave you with one final thought to chew on. What if your personality isn't who you are? What if instead it's the incredible story of how you made it through? Just think about that for a second. What changes for you if you start seeing yourself that way?